Hello again, everyone. Pharrell here, Flo out of Portland, and welcome to our mini frequently asked questions series. And question number one: how do I know if my roof needs repair or full replacement? One of the most popular questions we get. Hopefully, you don't need a full replacement, but there are things that tie our hands. We have to make sure that it's only a single layer. If it's more than one layer, how do we take accountability for the previous workmanship that's probably creating the issue why you called us in the first place? Okay. For shingles, you can typically repair those fairly easy as long as it's a single layer. And they're typically associated with a penetration or flashing detail, which is pretty easy to get access to. For membranes, same thing, penetration mostly the focus, but seams in the field can create an issue. Seams popping, which means you may need to consider a layover or full replacement there. And then metal, which may take a lot longer to show, typically is going to be associated with the penetration or lack of flashing as well. And so that's kind of the short answer. But we're going to dive a little bit deeper that workmanship is more than likely going to be exposed during the aging process. So, for instance, exposed fasteners need to have proper seals. Okay, as part of the tune-up process of your roof, you wouldn't expect a car to get to 100,000 miles oil change free. You wouldn't expect your roof to get to 20, 30 years without having cleanings and tune-ups, okay? And so how you take care of anything in your life, it extends all the way into relationships. How you take care of anyone and anything in your life through communication, intention, or direct physical maintenance, depending on what we're talking about here, can help extend the lifespan, help create a longer functional, effective, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but trying to allow whatever it is, the roof, your car, to last as long as possible. And with that, how you treat the things in your life will tell us a lot about how long your roof is going to last. And so if I'm on site, I'm talking to you, I'm like, okay, well, you've got the Toyota Sienna minivan, and obviously you care about your family, you care about the safety, efficiency, and the comfort of those around you, but I look up at your roof and I'm like, oh, well, she's got a little bit of moss, and seeing some broken shingles or some exposed fasteners not sealed, and I'm like, okay, well, out of sight, out of mind, I'll try to forgive, but I'm a little biased, and at least on the shingle side for the steep slope. Now, if I see that same roof with 3-4 plus layers, now we're going to have a conversation and be like, okay, well, hopefully you bought this, hopefully you didn't buy this under the impression that you didn't think you were going to need a roof. But if you bought this knowing that it needed a roof, all right, the previous owner did not do you any favors. But at least having multiple layers, and generally in Northeast, Southeast, Portland, parts of Vancouver, even down in Salem, you'll see multiple layers. And at one point there was a kind of like, I feel like, a consensus that don't ask, don't tell, maybe in roofs. I don't know. I haven't been around roofs for 30 or 40 decades yet, but I could tell, when people are considering a second layer, generally it's a consideration about cost, which is kind of BS, for prepping a roof surface properly, getting down to the decking, making sure it's clean and ready for for that first layer to come back on. You're talking for the standard roof, less than $1,000 or $2,000 for disposal and labor to just clean everything up to get it prepped for the surface. Obviously, a custom house and a lot bigger house would probably be about double that, but for the average 2,000 to 3,000 square foot home, that's roughly what your tear off and dry in process is going to cost. So for those considering doing a layover, Flow is not the company for you. Okay, just save you a little bit of time. We do quite a bit of layovers on the membrane side, but when you're putting ISO into the equation on a commercial building at the size that could be 10x, 20x, 50x the size of a house, the ISO can literally be over 6 figures in the full replacement cost. And so if you can salvage that or do a targeted repair on that, then your savings is exponential almost. And so ISO savings, if it's not damaged, is completely normal. And if you only have one layer, then you're a candidate for what's called a layover, which is a type of restoration. And so at that point, having the conversation with property owners about trying to give them the best ROI on what they already have is an educational process to make sure they know what they already got. So that way we can work with what they have to try to give them the most savings for the best bang on the buck for the best ROI. Just like residential, commercial folks, everyone wants the biggest bang for the buck. They don't want to overspend. No one wants to buy anything they don't need. Okay, well, when you have that luxury, right, it's different for luxury goods than it is a necessary item like your roof, then at that point, we have that conversation about the options involved, and there's typically going to be a menu of different solutions, so that way we try to work with something with everyone's budget. So for shingles, repairs are typically going to be, they could range from a single penetration for anywhere from $300 to $700. Just depends on the penetration, the distance, the slope, the existing roof materials. It's going to be different for a presidential shingle than it's going to be for a single laminate. You're not going to find many 3-tabs, so how do you work with trying to repair a 3-tab issue versus going with a single laminate standard architectural shingle? For repairs on membrane roofs, typically you can have a little bit of targetedness. But we've had this issue before on these very old systems. People are like, please give me a repair. And they're like, I don't want to do a replacement. So then we've had issues where the adhesion on that old roof is not even cleaned, is not sticking, it's not welding, okay? And so with that, we have to make strong recommendations, but fortunately, there are solutions that you can work with, even on an older system, to create temporary fixes. It doesn't mean it's not repairable. You just have to set expectations with the client saying, hey, look, this roof is flocked, and I really want to make sure that you get the best ROI, but you need to consider these things. In those situations, we found that you can actually cut underneath the membrane and weld to the bottom of the membrane, which doesn't have the UV exposure. It doesn't weld great. It is watertight. It is TPO on TPO or PVC on PVC, but you're not going to have the assurance of proper water shedding, because then you're welding underneath the old roof. So there's solutions and workarounds, but I don't recommend it. I don't recommend anyone playing with an older membrane system. And when it comes to metal shows issues either right away or decades and decades down the road, and it's going to really depend on your maintenance cycle. So at the front end, your metal roof was either installed correctly or not, and so you either have proper flashing and hidden fasteners and proper bullnose drip, you're hooking all of your details, right? So weather tight system. Or it'll show those issues or penetrations will fail decades and decades down the road. Perhaps they used cheaper steel around their skylights or their chimney and it rusted out or something. It takes a long time, but it's possible. Or possible sealants around some of the pipe boots, right? Could have created issues. So my recommendation is always go with a hidden fastener system. So at a lower slope, you also go with a taller rib, and you go 1 3/4 MS150, which doesn't mean much to you guys, but it's a style of panel. And or you can go with the MS200 series, something a little more fancy, but those are permanent systems. Can you repair a MS200 mechanically locked panel? It's got a robot where the seam is welded shut. Those are permanent systems and require full section replacement or full system replacement if you got to have matching panels or a matching color. Typically, it's a newer panel. You don't see a lot of that mechanical locked on older systems, and on the commercial low slope side, you can actually get that system down to a flat roof, literally 0-12, and it will hold water leak free. So 112 is our lowest MS200 series roof right now, and properly flashed and properly hooked with all the right flashings, that roof has never dripped once since its install. And it all comes down to the training from the manufacturers. So if your roof was not installed by a trained outfit, then more than likely, less common still, but an above 0% chance that workmanship issues will show. And on the membrane side of things, on the commercial side, you have an NDL warranty, which NDL warranties are basically formal manufacturer-held warranties, and we'll talk more about warranties in other questions, but the NDL process has a manufacturer's rep go out and check all the workmanship and score the installer, the company that installed it, to make sure they're maintaining the standards of that manufacturer's expectations for holding a 20 or 30-year warranty. And so after 2 years, the manufacturer will hold that warranty from the installer, which is their guarantee that after 2 years, more than likely, if no issues have popped up, they're going to be confident they'll hold that warranty for another 20 years, especially after their inspection. And if you're a qualified installer, you should have a very high 90s score on those. And I think you want perfection in roofing, but sometimes you get scuffing. Sometimes if it's a full tear off, you can't keep the roof perfectly clean. And then manufacturers will make sure that your ventilation is done properly with all matching components. And at that point, you'll get your score, which is an indicator to the manufacturer and to the client, you property owners, that the person installing the roof has a quality high standard. So if you don't have a score from the manufacturer on your flat roof, that means you may have not gotten an NDL warranty, which is fine. So the company you got that roof from will either provide you a product-only warranty and or just workmanship. Flow, we give you product warranty plus workmanship, and then option for NDL, but typically people don't want NDL if they can get just a product warranty plus workmanship. It's almost the same. The difference being that the manufacturer holds a warranty, but you're going to have higher registration costs, etc., for that inspection process. So let's move on to the next question. Thanks for bearing with me. And question number 2 out of about